you are not alone today. We delve deep into the heart of Stoic wisdom to explore the signs that it is time to lovingly release certain bonds, to make room for new growth, deeper connections, and a life focused on your highest virtues. Stay with me as we embark on this journey together, guided by the timeless teachings of Stoicism, ready to discover the freedom and peace that come from choosing our relationships with wisdom and courage. As we navigate this journey, I invite you to hit the subscribe button, share this video with someone who may need to hear this message, and don't forget to like and watch each part without skipping it. Because every moment of this exploration could be the one that changes your life, if a relationship is stopping you. Growing up is a warning sign. Think about that for a moment. Have you ever felt stuck because you're not getting anywhere because someone around you isn't encouraging you, or worse, is actively holding you back? It's a difficult situation, isn't it? In 1, Seneca was all about the power of personal growth and self-improvement. He believed in living a life worth living. We need to constantly evolve, learn, and overcome our limitations. So if you are in a relationship, whether it's with a friend, family member, or partner, and you feel like you're not able to grow, Seneca would probably tell you that's a red flag you can't ignore. Now, I'm not saying every relationship has to be about pushing you to your limits or setting world records, but the people who care about you should want to see you flourish. They should be your cheerleaders, your support system, not anchors dragging you down to the depths of what if and if only. It's worth sitting down and having a heart-to-heart with yourself. Ask, why am I still holding on to this relationship? Is it out of habit, fear, loyalty? These are hard questions but necessary, because here's the thing. True connections, the ones that are really worth your time and heart, should lift you up. They should make you feel like you're capable of being more today than you were yesterday. Stoicism teaches us the importance of surrounding ourselves with people who contribute positively to our lives. It's not about accumulating friends or being liked. It's about curating a circle that enriches your life, encourages your growth, and aligns with your values. So if you find yourself in a relationship that feels more like quicksand than a launching pad, it might be time to reconsider its place in your life. Remember, it's not selfish to want to grow. It's human, and sometimes growth means letting go of those who hold us back, not with bitterness but with gratitude for the lessons learned and the strength gained from knowing when to say goodbye. Reflect on your relationships and consider whether they're bridges to your best self or barriers to your growth. And remember, the journey of self-improvement is never a solo trip. We need the right companions to truly make the journey worthwhile. We've all felt at one point or another being caught in a whirlwind of negative emotions within a relationship. Ever find yourself in a situation where it feels like drama is the main course and support is, well, it's not even tiring on the menu, is it? Marcus Aurelius had powerful ideas for dealing with our emotions. He said that we are in control of our minds, not external events, and we realize that this is where our true power lies. Changes the game when you apply it to relationships filled with jealousy, anger, or other negative emotions that seem to dominate the landscape. Think about it. If your relationship feels more like a battlefield than a safe haven, signal loudly and clearly that something needs to happen. Gives these emotions, while part of the human experience, should not be the basis or defining characteristics of a relationship that should last and bring you peace. Now, I am not suggesting that we can or should strive to live without ever being angry or jealous. That would be like trying to breathe without air. But what Marcus Aurelius teaches us is that we have control over how we respond to these emotions when jealousy arises, because a friend seems to be moving forward in life while we feel stuck, or when anger flares up every time a certain person undermines you. Remember that you control your reaction. You can choose to not let these emotions die, letting the terms of your relationship dictate. But what does that look like in practice? With awareness, recognizing when you are feeling these emotions and asking yourself, why am I feeling this way? What can I learn from this? How can I respond in a way that is consistent with the person I want to be? These are not easy questions, but they are essential, and sometimes the healthiest response is to create distance or make a change. This is not about running away from problems, but rather recognizing that when the core of one relationship is more about dragging each other into a negative spiral rather than getting back up again, that may be the case. It's time to reevaluate this. This doesn't mean you've failed or that the other person is a villain in your story. It's just a matter of recognizing that not all relationships are meant to last through every season of our lives. And that's okay. The Stoics believed in the idea of living in harmony with nature, and sometimes the natural course of things is to separate. That is, when you find yourself constantly wrestling with negative emotions in any of your relationships, take a moment, reflect on Marcus Aurelius. Wisdom. Remember, you have the power over your mind, your reactions, and ultimately the choice to surround yourself with relationships that are rooted in positive, supportive energies. It's in these environments that we can truly thrive, grow, and find peace. Let's not let the drama define our relationships. Instead, let's cultivate connections that are based on mutual respect, understanding, and genuine support. Because at the end of the day, those are the relationships that withstand the test of time and bring out the best in us. Let's tackle a tricky but crucial topic, the role of manipulation and control in our relationships. In any kind of relationship, feeling like you're more of a puppet than a partner is a massive red flag. It's about time we talk about autonomy, freedom, and the sage advice of Epictetus once said, "No one is free if he is not the master of himself." Think for a moment. True freedom, according to Epictetus, comes from within, by having control over our actions, decisions, and ultimately our lives. So what does it mean for us to be in harmony with ourselves, in relationships where we feel like we are not the ones making the decisions, where our decisions, desires, and even our thoughts seem to be under the control of another person, is a strong and clear sign for something to be wrong? Manipulation and control. They can surprise us in different ways. They can be subtle, like constant suggestions that take you away from your passions, or, even more, direct demands that dictate who you are or what you should do. These are not characteristics of a healthy relationship, but real connections that really exist. It's worth our time, and the emotional investment is based on mutual respect and freedom. The stoicism teaches us the importance of autonomy, of being the captain of your own ship, so to speak. When you are in a relationship where you are constantly wondering if you are limiting your options or if you feel limited, become. If your wings are clipped, it's worth asking yourself why you remain trapped in a dynamic that stifles your freedom and prevents you from writing the story of your own life. Is not about cutting ties with someone who is manipulating or controlling you. It's about being tough or cruel. Is about honoring your worth, your autonomy, and your right to live a life that is true to you. The year is about taking the wisdom of Epictetus to heart and demanding your freedom, the freedom to make your own decisions, grow and live your life according to your values. And yes, the decision to leave these relationships can be incredibly difficult. It can mean leaving something familiar or even someone close to your heart. But remember that stoicism is not about taking the easy way, but about taking the right way. Sometimes the right path is the one that leads us away from what hurts us, and toward a more authentic existence are those that respect our individuality and freedom. They encourage us to explore, to question, to grow. They don't try to mold us into something we're not or dictate how we should live our lives. So if you're feeling like someone's pulling your strings, take a moment to reflect on Epictetus's words, "No one is truly free who isn't master of himself." Ask yourself if it's time to cut those strings and embrace the freedom to be authentically you. It's a journey worth taking a step towards a life where you're in control, surrounded by relationships that uplift and respect your autonomy and freedom. Let's cherish and seek out those connections that empower us, that allow us to be the masters of our own lives. Because at the end of the day, that's what true friendship and love should do: set us free, not hold us back. What happens when a relationship starts to do more harm than good? When the time you spend with someone leaves you feeling more drained than energized, more stressed than supported. It's like you're constantly walking on eggshells, caught up in an endless cycle of arguments, or just feeling down whenever they're around. These are glaring red flags that something seriously off. Healthy connections, the kind we all deserve and should strive for, they're supposed to feel good. They're meant to enrich our lives, bring us joy and support us through the ups and downs. They're not supposed to complicate our lives with constant stress or make us question our worth. The dangers of manipulation and control. The Stoics were all about living in harmony with nature, including our own nature, and pursuing a life of virtue and tranquility. They believed in the importance of maintaining relationships that are in line with these principles. So if you find yourself in a relationship that's pulling you away from peace, from being your best self, it's worth considering what the Stoics might advise. They'd likely encourage us to take a step back and examine the situation objectively. Does this relationship contribute to your well-being? Does it help you grow as a person? Or is a source of constant negativity that drains you of energy and makes you feel worse? Where, if it's the latter, it might be time to question whether this connection is truly serving your highest good. Consider. Stoicism teaches us the value of self-awareness and the courage to make difficult decisions that are consistent with our well-being and virtues. It's not about being cold or insensitive. It's recognizing what is truly beneficial for us in the long run. And sometimes that means making the difficult decision to distance ourselves from relationships that do more harm than good. That doesn't mean every bad phase means a relationship is toxic or should end. But if a person's presence in your life constantly makes you feel worse, that's a sign that something needs to change. Healthy relationships may have their challenges, but at their core, they are their sources of support, love, and mutual growth. So if you nod the feeling that something like that resonates with your current situation, take a moment to reflect and consider what steps you can take to address the current problems. Communication is key. Maybe it's time for an open and honest conversation about how you're feeling. When things aren't, remember that it's okay to prioritize your peace and well-being. The Stoics want to remind us that our responsibility to ourselves includes cultivating relationships that are healthy and letting go of those that are not. Let's commit to seeking and nurturing connections that feel healthy and enrich our lives rather than complicating them. Because at the end of the day, we all deserve relationships that bring us joy, growth, and peace of mind. And remember that we face these challenges and make these difficult decisions, we become stronger and more in tune with our true selves. This is the Stoic way of accepting what serves us and having the wisdom to let go of what doesn't serve us. Lack of mutual respect is another crucial factor. Without respect, there is no basis for anything positive. Without respect, what do we really have? It's like trying to build a house on sand. Eventually everything's just going to collapse. The Stoics, who were pretty big on the whole concept of living a virtuous life, placed a huge emphasis on self-respect and the respect we owe to others. They believed that every individual possesses inherent worth and dignity, and this belief should be reflected in how we treat each other. So if you find yourself in a relationship where you're not being treated with the dignity you deserve, it's a massive red flag. It's not just about feeling undervalued, it's about recognizing that a fundamental aspect of your humanity is being disregarded. Mutual respect is the bedrock of any healthy connection. It's the foundation upon which trust, love, and genuine understanding are built. If that's missing, then what's left? You're left with a relationship that's hollow, unfulfilling, and frankly not worth your time and emotional investment. Now I can almost hear some of you saying, but what if it's not that simple? What if I really care about this person? And that's a fair point. Relationships are complex and emotions are powerful. But here's where the wisdom of Stoicism can guide us. The Stoics were all about clarity, rationality, and living in alignment with our highest values. They would encourage us to take a step back and assess our relationships through this lens. Are we being true to ourselves by staying in a situation where we're not respected? Are we honoring our inherent worth and the virtues we strive to live by? If the answer is no, then it might be time for a serious reassessment. This doesn't necessarily mean cutting someone out of your life with cold precision. Instead, it's about recognizing your own value and making decisions that reflect that. It might mean setting clearer boundaries, having a heart-to-heart conversation about how you're feeling, or in some cases, acknowledging that it's time to move on. Remember respecting yourself, identifying harmful relationship dynamics, and insisting on being treated with respect by others is not selfish or demanding. It's a reflection of the self-worth that the Stoics believed each of us should cultivate. It's about living with integrity and ensuring that your relationships reflect the respect and virtue you strive for in your own life. So if you're dealing with a lack of mutual respect, take a moment to reflect on what that means for you and your well-being. Consider how you can address this issue in a way that honors your dignity and values, because at the end of the day, every one of us deserves to be in relationships where we're treated with the respect and consideration we'd give in return. Let's strive to cultivate connections that are rooted in mutual respect, where each person is valued and appreciated for who they are. This is the kind of relationship that not only survives, but also thrives, reflecting the best of what it means to live a life grounded in Stoic wisdom and virtue, and untethered to illusions rather than reality. Stoicism, at its core, is about acceptance of the reality of our lives, our relationships, and the world around us, not as we wish they were, but as they really are. The Stoics, with their pragmatic and down-to-earth approach to life, teach us that there is deep power and freedom in seeing things clearly, without the rose-colored glasses that illusions often provide. So what does this mean for our relationships? Well, it means looking at them seriously and honestly, and asking ourselves whether they are rooted in reality or whether we are clinging to a fantasy. Are we ignoring the warning signs they miss? Having trouble or painting a picture of someone that doesn't match who they really are? If so, we are doing ourselves and our partners a disservice. When we depend on illusions in a relationship, can be like being trapped in a mirage. From a distance, everything appears to be perfect, but up close, you realize it's all an illusion, devoid of substance and truth. This is not to say that hopes and aspirations don't belong in relationships. They do, but there's a fine line between living in healthy fantasies and losing ourselves in them, which takes away from our capacity to interact with the true nature of our connections. Facing these illusions is what the Stoics would have us do, embracing the truth. It's about having the guts to face the uncomfortable or painful realities of our relationships head-on. This is not an easy task. It calls for a daunting level of honesty and vulnerability, but there is incredible power in truth. It's the basis for real, meaningful relationships. The process of choosing reality over illusion can be life-changing. It may entail realizing that the person you're with isn't who you imagined they would be, or that the relationship isn't what you thought it was. This realization can be a bitter pill to swallow, but it's also a crucial step towards genuine growth and emotional freedom. It opens up the space for you to engage in relationships that are authentic, where you can love and be loved for who you truly are, not for the illusions you've constructed. So if you find yourself feeling tethered to illusions, take a moment to reflect. What aspects of your relationship are real and what parts have you embellished or imagined? How does this alignment or lack thereof with reality affect your happiness and well-being? Remember, stoicism isn't about pessimism or resigning ourselves to unhappiness, quite the opposite. It's about finding peace and contentment by aligning ourselves with the truth of how things are. It teaches us that by accepting reality, we can navigate our lives and relationships with wisdom, clarity, and a sense of groundedness that illusions simply cannot provide. Let's challenge ourselves to look at our relationships through the lens of Stoic acceptance. Accepting the truth, no matter how difficult it may be, will allow us to be more receptive to the kind of sincere, fulfilling relationships that enhance our lives in profound ways. After all, when the truth is clear, we can find the road to true happiness and love. Violating your moral principles should never be considered an option. These serve as a moral compass that guides our decisions, actions, and ultimately the course of our lives. Now, here's a question that may be more relevant to us than we'd like. What happens when a relationship violates those principles? The foundation of mutual respect forces you to give up some of your most cherished beliefs. It's a difficult situation, but one that requires our attention. And you know what? Stoicism offers some priceless insights on this subject. The Stoics contend that giving in on our core beliefs in order to maintain a relationship is a sacrifice too great to make, because these beliefs form the core of who we are, guide our decisions, and determine how we interact with the outside world. To give in on these beliefs is to forfeit a piece of who we are, and that is a loss. No relationship is worth being in if it forces you to act against your moral principles. These small compromises may seem insignificant at first, but over time they erode your sense of self and the values you live by. It's not just about making the kind of sacrifices and concessions that are typical in any healthy relationship. It's about betraying your very essence. The Stoics teach us that virtue and integrity are not just lofty ideals, but also useful guidelines for leading a fulfilling life. The importance of remaining true to oneself and living in alignment with one's values is stressed by Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca. This alignment is what gives our lives meaning, direction, and a sense of purpose. So if you find yourself in a situation where a relationship is pressuring you to compromise your values, it's a clear indication to take a moment to think things through. Consider whether the connection is promoting your best interests by letting you develop and flourish, or by making you feel like someone else. I'm not. It's difficult to navigate this situation, especially when emotions are involved. But this is where the Stoic practice of self-reflection and logical analysis can help you. By taking a step back and evaluating the relationship through the prism of your values, you can make decisions that honor the person you aspire to be as well as yourself. Keep in mind that ending a relationship that violates your morals is not a sign of failure, but rather a brave act of self-respect that declares your value as a person enough to accept only those who respect and uplift you. At the end of the day, it's our adherence to these values that defines us, guides us through life's ups and downs, and leads us to true fulfillment. So, keep your values close, cherish them, and never compromise on them for anyone or anything. By doing this, you'll not only honor the wisdom of the Stoics, but also pave the way for relationships that are genuine, meaningful, and truly enriching. Let's challenge ourselves to live with the integrity and virtue the Stoics admired so much. Let's make sure that our relationships reflect and respect our values rather than undercut them. When we talk about reciprocity, We're talking about the give and take balance between people. It's about mutual support, where both parties give to the relationship in equal measure. However, what happens when this balance is off, and you find yourself in a one-sided relationship where you give all the time but rarely or never receive anything in return? This is a situation that many of us have encountered, and it's far from ideal. The basic foundation of what a healthy relationship should be today is undermined when one person is always the giver and the other is always the receiver. This imbalance can result in feelings of resentment, exhaustion, and underappreciation on the part of the giver, and dependency or entitlement on the part of the receiver. The value of mutual assistance and the nature of relationships were topics covered extensively by the Stoics. They held that improving the well-being of others should never come at the expense of one's own. The Stoic principles of balance and mutual respect were meant to guide a harmonious and mutually respectful relationship in which both parties supported each other's pursuit of virtue and a happy life. If you find yourself in a one-sided relationship, it may be worthwhile to consider these principles. Are you honoring the other person by fostering a dynamic that doesn't support their development or contribution? Reality versus illusions in relationships. Resolving this imbalance might be a chance for both parties to grow rather than necessarily ending the relationship. It all begins with communicating your needs. Setting limits and talking about ways to improve the relationship's balance is important because it allows the other partner to contribute more to the partnership's emotional, spiritual, and material well-being. Healthy relationships are dynamic and change over time. They call for effort, compromise, and a willingness to adapt, but the basis should always be reciprocity because it allows each partner to feel heard, valued, and supported. This mutual support strengthens bonds and creates an atmosphere where both partners can thrive. Seeking balance in your relationships is not selfish. Rather, it's a necessary means making sure you're giving and receiving the love, respect, and support you deserve. It's about creating relationships that are not just in the give and take of life. We find the true essence of meaningful relationships. This is a difficult subject to address, but it's imperative that we talk about it. Abuse in any form, physical, emotional, verbal, or psychological, is a clear, unmistakable signal. Let's embrace the Stoic ideals of balance and mutual respect, that the relationship should end, now stoicism. A philosophy deeply rooted in the principles of dignity, self-respect, and the value of the human spirit, unequivocally condemns any form of abuse. Such behavior not only violates the Stoic principles of respect for oneself and others, but also destroys the very foundation of trust and safety that relationships should be built upon. Stoicism teaches us the importance of recognizing our inherent worth and insists on the necessity of maintaining our dignity and self-respect. These aren't just lofty ideals, they are practical guidelines meant to direct our actions and choices, especially in the face of adversity, when we find ourselves in situations where these fundamental principles are being violated. Stoicism urges us to take action, not out of vengeance or anger, but out of respect for ourselves and the innate value of our well-being. Abuse tramples on dignity and self-respect. It seeks to diminish the victim's sense of self, to control, and to instill fear. This is antithetical to everything Stoicism stands for. The Stoic response to such a situation is clear. Exiting an abusive relationship is undoubtedly one of the most difficult decisions one may ever have to make. It requires immense courage, strength, and frequently the support of others. This is where the Stoic practice of seeking wisdom from those who have faced similar challenges, or from professionals who can offer guidance and support, becomes invaluable. Seeking help and ending the relationship is not just important, it's necessary. It's a step that aligns with the Stoic commitment to living a life that is virtuous and dignified. Furthermore, Stoicism emphasizes the process of healing and regaining one's dignity and self-respect after such experiences. It teaches us that while we may not have control over other people's actions, we do have control over how we respond to those actions and how we move forward. In many ways, the journey of healing from abuse is a Stoic journey. It's about reasserting control over one's inner world, reaffirming one's values, and rebuilding one's life in alignment with those values. To be clear, if you find yourself in an abusive situation, know that it is not your fault, and that you are not alone in asking for assistance and relying on the strength of people who stand by you. The non-negotiables, reciprocity and values, as well as taking action to get out of such a situation, are all acts that represent the highest respect you can give yourself. These are steps toward living a life where your well-being and dignity are valued as they should be in the spirit of Stoicism. Let's not forget how important it is to recognize our intrinsic worth, value ourselves, and act decisively to get out of dangerous situations. Let's continue to be steadfast in our dedication to self-respect, dignity, and the pursuit of a life that is not only devoid of abuse, but also abundant in virtue and significance. Poor communication can be a difficult obstacle. What transpires when attempts to speak things out in a relationship don't result in communication. Mutual understanding seems like a far-off fantasy, and finding common ground feels like an impossible endeavor. This is not merely a small hiccup in the road. Rather, it is a warning sign of more serious problems that require attention. And yes, Stoicism, with its ageless wisdom, can offer some guidance in this regard as well. Clear and honest communication is essential to a healthy relationship because it allows us to express our needs, share our thoughts, and connect with one another on a meaningful level. Without it, we essentially navigate our relationships blindly, speculating about what the other person is thinking or feeling, and, most of the time, getting it wrong. The Stoics recognized the importance of this, living examples of it, and promoting it in their teachings. So what do we do when communication breaks down first? It's crucial to recognize that failed communication is often a symptom of underlying issues. It could be a lack of trust, unresolved resentments, or simply a difference in communication styles. Whatever the root cause, Stoicism teaches us to approach the problem with a clear head and a willing heart. It encourages us to look inward, examining our own role in the communication breakdown, and to strive for clarity and honesty in our interactions. Marcus Aurelius was a strong advocate for using reason and logic to navigate life's challenges. He would likely suggest that we apply these same tools to tackle communication issues. This means taking a step back, removing emotions from the equation as much as possible, and analyzing the situation objectively. Where is the communication failing? What steps can be taken to improve it? Improving communication requires effort from all parties involved. It's about creating a safe space where each person feels heard and valued. It's about actively listening, not just waiting for your turn to speak, but truly trying to understand the other person's perspective. It's about expressing yourself clearly and respectfully without accusations or assumptions. And perhaps most importantly, it's about having the patience and persistence to keep trying, even when it feels like you're not making progress. Stoicism also reminds us of the importance of empathy and compassion in our communications. Remember, everyone has their struggles, fears, and insecurities. Sometimes what comes across as hostility or indifference is actually a defense mechanism. By approaching our communications with empathy, we open the door to deeper understanding and connection. Failed communication doesn't have to be the end of a relationship. Instead, It can be an opportunity for growth for both individuals and the relationship itself. It's a chance to learn more about each other, to develop better communication skills, and to build a stronger, more resilient bond. So if you find yourself facing communication challenges, take a moment to reflect on the Stoic principles of clarity, honesty, and empathy. Use these as your guide to navigate through the issues. And remember, the goal isn't just to talk more, but to communicate better. In the richness of effective communication, we find the true essence of connection and understanding, the very foundations upon which meaningful relationships are built. Picture this, a relationship that, instead of being a source of peace and comfort, addressing abuse and failed communication, feels more like a storm, constantly disturbing your inner calm and leaving you feeling unsettled. It's tough, isn't it? When the very connections that are supposed to enrich our lives end up costing us our peace of mind. This is a clear signal that it's time to pause and reflect on the role such a relationship plays in your life. Stoicism, a philosophy that has stood the test of centuries, places immense value on tranquility, teaching us to cultivate a state of inner calm that remains undisturbed by external circumstances. The Stoics believe that peace of mind is not just a precious asset, it's essential for living a good life. They taught that we should strive to maintain our equanimity in the face of life's ups and downs, and this includes navigating our relationships with wisdom and discernment. So what do we do when a relationship consistently disrupts our tranquility? First and foremost, Stoicism encourages us to take a step back and examine the situation objectively. Ask yourself, why does this relationship disturb my peace? Is it the behavior of the other person, unresolved conflicts, or perhaps my own reactions and expectations that are at fault? This process of self-examination is crucial because it moves us from a place of emotional reaction to one of rational response. Once we've identified the source of the disturbance, the next step is to consider what can be changed. Can the issues be addressed through open and honest communication? Are there boundaries that need to be set or reinforced? Remember, Stoicism doesn't advocate for passive acceptance of all situations. While it teaches us to accept the things we cannot change, it also encourages us to take action where we can make a positive difference. However, if after careful consideration and effort, the relationship continues to be a source of turmoil, it may be time to question its place in your life. This isn't about giving up at the first sign of trouble or conflict. It's about recognizing when a relationship is fundamentally misaligned with your values and your pursuit of tranquility. The decision to distance oneself from a relationship that disturbs your peace is not to be taken lightly. It requires courage, honesty, and sometimes a willingness to let go for the sake of your own well-being. But remember, the Stoic goal is not to eliminate all sources of discomfort in our lives, but to cultivate an inner resilience that allows us to face challenges with equanimity. In the end, the relationships we choose to maintain should support our pursuit of tranquility, not undermine it. They should be sources of strength, growth, and joy, not constant unrest. So if you find yourself consistently disturbed by a relationship, consider it an opportunity to practice Stoic wisdom, reflect, evaluate, and choose the path that leads to peace. Let's strive to surround ourselves with people who contributed to our tranquility rather than detract from it. In doing so, we honor not just the Stoic teachings, but also our own journey towards a life of peace, purpose, and profound fulfillment. Remember, the quality of our lives is greatly influenced by the quality of our relationships. It's about finding balance, embracing truth, cultivating respect, and above all, ensuring our connections enrich our lives without compromising our peace. As we part ways today, I hope you carry with you the Stoic principles we've explored together. Let them be a beacon guiding you through the challenges and joys of your relationships. And remember, the pursuit of tranquility, virtue, and wisdom is a journey we're all on together. One step, one decision, one relationship at a time. If this conversation has sparked a